Kansas Jayhawks are coming to Stillwater to take on Oklahoma State as we face Kansas schools back-to-back. But let's start, though. The passing of Walt Garrison earlier this week, a real Oklahoma State legend in so many ways, and someone you were very familiar with.
A true cowboy. He used to come around quite a bit before he got sick, and just a pleasure to be around. Loyal and true, old school, tough guy. Back in that time when he was playing, he was like a hero to your high school, junior high, and elementary kids that parents brought to the game. I mean, he was my generation's Barry Sanders, and we're certainly going to miss him. But just a true cowboy, supported Oklahoma State no matter what. I can remember him being around in years where we weren't playing good. I'm talking about all the way back when I was an assistant coach. Mm-hmm. And he would never say a bad thing about Oklahoma State. Never question what we were doing, question what the plays we were running. All he ever did was support Oklahoma State. And he's always been very loyal and true, and a great example and definition and illustration of what a cowboy is.
As we turn our attention to this year's team, this is really the first year that you've dealt full bore with NIL, the portal, all the changes. Mm-hmm. As we're about to approach the midway point, what have you learned? Anything in sort of the first big go-around with this?
We've done things differently. I think some of it has been productive. Some of it I wouldn't do again. Overall, it's not going to go away. I think the portal numbers are going to stay at 20%-ish average across the country, that you'll or adjust, for lack of a better term, your roster.
Right.
So we just have to continue to do what we think's best. Would like to keep all of these players intact that we have. You know, speaking with Oklahoma State, that we have a number of really good young players in this program. And I'm hoping that they'll all be here in the spring and then again in September, because that's how we've won a lot of football games in the last 20 years.
Right.
So hopefully we're in a position now that we can keep them around, and that comes back to spreading reps out for spring ball, spreading reps out all through August. And we've talked about this a little bit, but my goal is to be able to tell all of them, each one of you had a fair shot for the amount of times that we could get you in the game. I mean, that's one thing you can't say we didn't do, and I'm hoping that that'll help the backlash of the portal and us having to bring portal players in as we adjust.
It's interesting. You've spread out the football on offense in the passing game. Mm-hmm. You have more receptions by non-receivers than I can remember in a long time, and I'm talking about running backs, fullbacks,
Sure.
tight ends. Was that part of the plan, or has that sort of evolved on its own?
Some of that has evolved through getting back to a little bit more of 11 personnel and some 21 personnel, different things. Those guys have been on the field more than they have in the past, and so obviously they're going to be more accessible in the passing game.
As we turn our attention to Kansas, what will be required of your defense this week that'll be different than last week when they had a really good game against K-State?
There are some similarities.
Okay.
But the majority of their run plays are going to have an option or triple option feel to it. So you have to be responsible for your man. Can't just go running after and chase the ball when the quarterback can pull it, or he could pull it and pitch it. So there's a lot of responsibility and discipline that takes place, and then we need to tackle. When we get to them, we got to be able to get them down on the ground.
As far as your offense goes, you've had very good success running the ball the last 2 weeks against two teams that take a lot of pride in stopping it, Iowa State and Kansas State. If you look at the last 2 years, Kansas opponents who have beaten them have averaged 296 yards per game on the ground. Is it even more important this week to get the run game going?
Well, it's important every week, but what that has done with the style of play they have is that keeps them off the field. And in keeping their offense off the field with some of the threats they have and the option concepts, obviously you can't score if you're not on the field a lot, minimize plays, things like that. They're good at what they do. They've done a really good job. You know, we talked about the portal earlier. See, they haven't really been hit with the portal. Mm-hmm. I went back and looked at the schools in this league to try to get more information to help us. And they timed it up pretty good. After, a couple years ago or 3 years ago when he got there, truth is, there might not have been a lot of guys that off that unit that were getting recruited through the portal. And then they showed promise and played well, so their attitudes obviously were good and they wanted to stay. So they've done a good job with the portal from the standpoint of losing players. And with where they're at, we have to continue to play good football. We ask all the questions like you do, but minimize turnovers, tackle, don't give up big plays, be good in the special teams, and then find a way to get some big plays against a defense that doesn't want to give you many of them.
Right. Time now for What's Your Beef? It's brought to you by Old Trapper Beef Jerky. And is there a way to make the punt return more prominent?
The issue with punt return is colleges have gone to spread punt where they're moving guys out and then they can release down the field and cover. And punters now are so good at punting the ball in a certain position on the field where they can cover in the direction of the punt. Mm-hmm. And they also are getting hang times 4.2 to 4.6. There's just not many opportunities for returns as there used to be when punters just boomed it and we were in a conventional NFL-type punt formation and you couldn't get coverage. We talk about it all the time. The number of chances that you actually get to return a punt by the amount of time you have to practice it, you have to be real careful because you're working on things you don't get an opportunity.
Sure.
Based on the way these punters are and their coverages are.
Sure. That's What's Your Beef, brought to you by Old Trapper Beef Jerky. The Cowboys and Jayhawks coming up this weekend, and we'll see you at Boone Pickens Stadium.